Oh, hi, everybody. Hey there, kids and kidettes. It's time for some hot football talk with Zach Law and Sharona Fabulosa.
Fabulosa!
Tonight, we are going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Are they actually better than we think? Probably not. Football season is officially less than 100 days away. In fact, we're about 2 months away from crappy preseason games. Woohoo! Off-season activities continue. Nobody's had a major injury in a week. Fantasy football is coming. We can talk about some of our personal experiences, and we're going to highlight one site that you must bookmark and join if you want to be crowned champion in all of your leagues. What is that site? Well, I'll tell you when we get to that segment. Trust me, this is a draft strategy that will freak out your league mates and give you potentially lucrative results. So, I will say, hi, Sharona, how are you? And I'll take you off.
Hi, Zach Law. Sharona is fabulosa. And, TikTok in just, a few short minutes, it's the kickoff of the NBA Finals. Zach is a football purist. He doesn't care about no basketball.
I feel like you're like that show Big Love. You're like a sports polygamist, and you're trying to hide it from the
monogamy is overrated.
It's just not natural.
Sports monogamy is overrated.
I mean, we're in the South. You gotta love football, and the second favorite sport is spring football, and the third favorite sport is, I don't know, fantasy football. There you go. You got 3 sports right there. Boom.
Last night I watched hockey. Tonight it's basketball, and, it's all good.
Well, the best part is I can watch these games on Twitter. So last night I was like ready to go to bed, and the hockey game was going to overtime. And everybody was
It went into overtime. It was awesome. My hair is bugging me. All right.
I see. I do, before we officially get rolling, just want to say shout out to Jody Smith of Gridiron Experts. Not sure what I did to deserve this, but he sent me like a care package of much beer, including this here bomber.
Oh, awesome.
St. Arnold Divine Reserve, which I'm drinking right now.
It looks like blueberry or pomegranate or something.
It's a normal beer color. It's,
It's just the bottle. The bottle's pretty. I am wearing purple. My purple Reebok shirt. Shout out to Sharona for not wearing pink for like the 10th day in a row.
You have any Titans pink gear, or you're not in with that?
I do not have. I am definitely a colors purist. No pink jerseys, none of that bullshit.
There you go. Strong. And I got my
ladies,
Pirates shirt.
If you like pink jerseys, ladies, I am all about you wearing your pink jerseys. I don't care. Sharona does not do it.
And talking about yourself
you do you, person, girl.
We're like 3 minutes in, already talking about yourself in third person. I love it. I think we're a strong verdict show tonight. So.
And I'm only on my first glass of wine. What up?
Oh, yeah, me too.
Oh. Peppy will probably make an appearance. I have to tell you guys, we had terrible storms here last night, some actually today too, but it was storming very bad after the hockey game went off. We went to get in bed, and Puppy Dog is not, she doesn't sleep with me anymore. It used to be, oh, I gotta sleep with her, and now it's like, no. I got my digs. I'm gonna go hang out in my house, and you go do your thing, right? So we get in bed, and it's storming, and the wind's picking up, and it's raining really hard, and I hear pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. I'm almost asleep. I'm in that good, I'm getting ready to hunker down and dream some good dream stuff, and here she comes. And she got in bed with me, and she was good, and so she slept with me last night.
So you were hot then, huh?
Yeah.
So what happened is our cats just wake up and one's glued to you, and you're sweating. Because it's that time of year. It's almost too hot for football, but it's never too hot to talk about football. So we will continue our browsing through the Tennessee Titans positions.
Yes.
Don't be dirty. We are talking about running back, the position the Titans decided wasn't worth $8 million a year anymore with Chris Johnson. And they said, see you, Chris Johnson. And hello to Bishop Sankey, or is that Bishop Stanky? We'll find out soon.
I came so close. Zach knows this. I came so close to, to naming my fantasy football team the Stanky Legs, but I did not do that. I named my you need to let me know. Nobody so far seems to have picked up on what this means, and I'm kind of disappointed in you guys. But I named my first fantasy football team the Hallowed Shaziers. Do you get that? Zach, do you get that reference?
No, I do not.
You guys.
Is that the linebacker the Steelers drafted? Is that him?
Yes.
So I got that part.
Yes. You know who Ryan Shazier is, right?
Sure, Ohio State, right?
So
Ohio State.
If you're a gamer like Sharona is, Team Gamers, you would have heard of a game called World of Warcraft. And if you know anything about World of Warcraft, you should get that reference. And that's the only hint you'll get.
Well, I know Chris Cluey plays that, so, and that's part of his Twitter handle. Because punters are people, too.
Punters are people, too, but and apparently they can kick ass and beat up quarterbacks.
Yeah. The Charlie Whitehurst rumor of the week is going to get us through this long, hot summer, apparently. So Bishop Sankey, I saw the Vine video that people have been passing around of him catching a football and then doing a backflip, because that's very useful on an NFL field.
Jamie Harper did that. He was awesome, wasn't he?
He did? Was that on the sideline?
He did it in a preseason game, as I recall.
Well, I remember Jerome Simpson did that, actually stuck the landing, which was impressive.
Jamie did too. It was pretty. It really was pretty awesome. Google that.
Bishop Sankey, Sean Green, hurt and mediocre. Of course, due to goofy NCAA rules, the Pac-10 guys are still in school, so Sankey and Green weren't actually at the OTAs. So we've been seeing a lot of McCluster talk. Will McCluster be the Titans' version of Danny Woodhead? Which, if we want to sneak ahead to a little fantasy talk, Danny Woodhead had something like 76 catches last year. So that's a pretty viable thing, but McCluster's never been used that much. But the Titans seem to think he's good, and every time somebody sees him on the field, they think he's going to be a playmaker.
He ran the ball in college, but not in, the Kansas City Chiefs, for whatever reason, opted to think he was more of a receiver as a running back, whereas he was both in college, but he ran the ball just a little bit more in college.
Well, I still, I don't know. That's a good question. If Titans fans are really going to embrace a guy who ran for like 700 yards against Tennessee, but, that was a while back. But yeah, the question is, are they going to use him like that? Are they going to give him, 200 touches this year? The only time he really ran the ball a lot was when he was in Kansas City and Jamal Charles was hurt and they had nobody else. Other than that, he was kind of a slot receiver who caught a lot of 8-yard passes. So we'll see what he can do. But I don't know. I like the versatility of it. Usually seems like an NFL player who's a versatile guy is usually a guy who's not really that good. Because if you're that good, you're going to stick to one position. But he does,
I don't know. Randall Cobb,
advantage. No, it's good to have a nice punt returner and have a change of pace because Chris Johnson was pretty much the guy.
Yeah.
Although was Jackie Battle in there for some third downs last year? It was a little weird.
Yeah, he got.
They put a less dynamic player in on third down because Chris Johnson doesn't care to catch the football.
There were a lot of kind of head scratching things going on. At the running back, I think, I don't know. Chris Johnson didn't do a lot. I think the thought process was, we'll put a guy in there who might run behind his blockers.
Yeah, there's this ongoing kind of rift, between guys who say they're film people versus stats people. And I think I've already talked about this multiple times, but
yeah.
The stats people seem to love Sankey, and the film people think he doesn't really have the great instincts.
We had Sigmund Bloom.
Down on first contact, but that's a lot of things we had issues with Chris Johnson, so it's hard to say.
We had Sigmund Bloom on the radio show this week, and he falls into that. Doesn't buy that Sankey is that good, but thinks he'll do okay because the offensive line should be improved this year.
Well, I mean, it's opportunity too. I mean, of all the rookies, he's the guy who's
probably going to get the most carries.
Starting job. I mean, he's had a lot of touches at Washington, I think, the last 2 years, so he can definitely handle it. And as we know, and may be a little dismayed by the fact the Titans are trying to invest. I mean, they've pretty much turned over their entire offensive line in like 2 years, which is crazy. But ideally, I think they want to run the ball a lot. So getting that running back, and you can get running backs cheap now. You get them in the second round. You get them very price controlled for 4 years. Probably it'll cost as much in 4 years as Sean Green will cost in 1. And yeah, that hurts to say. Feeling a little queasy with that. But yeah, actually, I think McCluster's making more than Sean Green. I don't know. But
I don't remember the contract details. Not by a whole lot, but maybe by a little. Yeah.
That was like a 4-year, $12 million deal, but yeah, it's not that much money.
Yeah, but I think that seems like it may be about $2 million difference there. It's not more than 3. I'm almost positive.
You actually think there's any chance that they'd let Sean Green go and just stick with Battle in his role?
I absolutely think that there is a large possibility that Sean Green does not make the roster. Right now he is injured, and if they released him, obviously they would owe him some sort of injury settlement. I expect that they might wait until he gets healthy.
Yeah, it's still like the NFL. Wait for a guy to be healthy. 2 days later, see ya. You're on the street, buddy.
Yeah.
But they have that undrafted guy from Western Kentucky, I guess, is kind of a similar
I like him.
Sean Green, not really a receiver, but a between tackles type.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he has a legit chance. We'll have to see. They don't. Do they even have a fullback on their roster now? I know they released Quinn Johnson, and I can't remember. Is Colin Mooney, is he still on the roster or not?
Yeah, he's still there. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, that's another thing to talk about is I don't think they're gonna really use a fullback. I'm not sure because
I wonder if they do.
Used what's his name, McLean. McLean, who had that bizarre 1,000-yard season from a fullback, a few years ago.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know, but what's its doodle? Marcel Reese.
Yeah. So Colin Mooney. Although I swear there was a story about him and how he was basically playing as a running back. I mean, I think all the time he's played in the NFL, I don't even know if he's been a fullback for the Titans. He's played like running back and special teams. But he's definitely
I think he's been a lead blocker. I seem to recall some plays where, like last year it was so weird. It's kind of hard to tell. We don't really know what this coaching staff is going to do. But like last year, they'd have a fullback suited up, ready to play on game day, and they might get 6 snaps. It was weird how they did that.
It was an odd use of a roster spot. He would play maybe special teams, but yeah, in terms of the regular offense, he wouldn't do very much. But I can't go through this position without showing, bobblehead collection. Eddie George.
Eddie.
I don't think the fans ever turned on Eddie George like they did in Chris Johnson, but Eddie George never was like a guy to trash talk his offensive line off the field and act the fool like Chris Johnson did.
Eddie was never a me-J kind of guy like his successor. So I mean, fans definitely knew that the mileage on his tires meant that his productivity was declining. But no, they didn't turn on him in the sense that they just knew that his days were numbered. I think it's the best way to put that.
Well, they never really had a serious contender to take anything away from Eddie George. It was a weird transition between when we had like Chris Brown for a couple years, and then they kept drafting guys in the second round every year, like Chris Henry and then Lundell White, and then finally by the time they drafted Chris Johnson, we were like, just okay, we're sick of the Titans taking wide receivers. It was like the Falcons where they kept taking wide receivers, and then they finally got Roddy White, and everybody's like, they can't draft receivers, and then they finally got a good one.
Yeah.
The Titans finally got a good one, and
well, but the Titans weren't taking, excuse me, wide receivers early. They were taking them in like the 5th round. You know, I mean,
let's talk about the running back position and Jeff Fisher's tendency to draft guys who weren't that good. Yeah. Was it the same year that it was the big battle over who they were going to take a quarterback, and then he decided to take Lendell White instead of Devin Hester?
Let me think. No, that was
2007. I don't remember what.
Let me think. When was
2007? Yeah.
When was No, I'm trying to think. When was Lendell White? When did Devin Hester come out? I don't think that was that year. I think it was the next year.
I'm saying 2007 just because that
2007.
Because I think Lendell White was a second-year guy when Chris Johnson came in. I mean, Lendell White had one year.
Floyd Reese is literally on the phone with Devin Hester, and Jeff Fisher's behind his back calling Bud saying, yo, here's, you know, and then so, you know, Floyd's like, Devin, can you hang on just a second? You know?
Prank call, just kidding. Your buddy.
Yeah. Ah, the good old days.
Some miscommunications in that during that era. I don't know if I don't know. I just feel I don't get a big feeling from this current coaching staff, but I just feel this slight wafting of professionalism, something that maybe we haven't had for a little while. So maybe it'll turn out to be something. I don't know.
Well, have some over this way. I'd like to smell that.
Yeah, that'd be the great. The new Tom Brady fragrance, professionalism. But probably smell like perfume or something. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I suppose we'll see. You know, it's going to be kind of fun to watch how their decisions turn out.
Well, talking about running backs is weird. It's almost like running back is like fullback now. It's just not as important a position. I mean, I've been studying some fantasy stuff, and just the sheer touches that guys get have gone down. You know, like Chris Johnson had like 400 touches one year, and I think maybe one guy had 350 touches last year. They just don't get as much use as they used to, but they still get, you know, a good receiver, a really, really good receiver has 100 catches, and a running back gets 250, 300. So
yeah, I think like the average was between 3 and 330, 325, somewhere around there. There were like I think 7 or 8 running backs that got, you know, 60 to 75% of the team's carries, and Chris Johnson was one of them, ranked dead last among all of them.
Well, they had nothing else. But it's one thing that shows the true value of the position. There was I think it was an over-the-cap article about Des Bryant and how much the Cowboys are going to have to pay him because he's a free agent next year. And they're saying that he's probably going to get $15 million a year. And I don't think any running backs are going to get $10 million. Like maybe Adrian Peterson's getting that.
I think the days of that are over.
I don't think anybody's. I mean, it might be rotating. It's weird because the teams that are really good are still teams that run a lot. Like the Patriots run a lot. They just don't have that bell cow guy. It's whoever. That's why it's so frustrating as a fantasy person. Is like Bill Belichick. Who knows who he's going to like?
Yeah.
Devon Ridley wears the wrong socks and he's benched. You know.
I mean, in all fairness, if Ridley didn't, you know, drop the rock, he probably would have gotten the majority of the carries, or him healthy too, obviously. I think that he was maybe dinged up a little bit. I know the other guy missed like 7 or 8 games. So yeah, the Patriots running back situation was ghastly last year. Except that, you know, look, Garrett Blount, look what he ultimately ended up doing.
Yeah, I know, him being the guy. Like, yeah, the Titans had him. He was like the one undrafted free agent they've had in the past, seems like decades. He's been really good. It's like, oh.
No, right.
You know, it's like he has bounced around, but it's like for an undrafted guy, he's in his 4th year in the league. It's like that's pretty solid, you know. A lot of 5th round picks don't make it that long, but
Yeah.
So the big talk in the NFL was all about Colin Kaepernick's giant contract extension.
Yeah,
Although there were
something
so
that
many
doesn't.
layers to it that it was kind of
Yeah.
confusing. Initially, it was he's got 60 million guaranteed, and he's making 16 million a year or something. And then later they found out it was really a complex contract, like almost set up that every year they can cut him and get away with it.
It's like
So,
guaranteed for injury or something. I have not looked at the latest numbers. I don't know, and so I'm not really competent to say too much. Except when it first was announced, I was like, the Niners finally did something I can laugh about.
well, it was like Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Nick Foles, and that's thunder. Oh, it's coming down. The kitty's
Uh
going to freak
oh,
out
uh
now.
oh.
All those young quarterbacks that are coming up are like, okay, that's what we're going to aim for.
Yeah.
But we know who's the quarterback who's
Well,
going to
not
blow.
just and and it's not just young quarterbacks too, because other quarterbacks like Alex Smith is angling for a deal, and some so yeah, I mean, yeah,
Who's going to blow that contract out of the water? One
yeah.
Jake Locker. That's who's going to do it.
Jake,
Jake is
Jake.
getting actually a little bit of good press, and not just from like Titans people. So, I mean, in terms of like fantasy, people are like, well, he might be a good, backup quarterback you can pick up, and he might have some value. But there's one thing, because I know it's not good to talk about competition, but the Titans MCM podcast had Mike Keith on, and he's the play-by-play guy. Touchdown Titans. I can't, do it any justice. But he was talking about just the sheer professionalism of Jake Locker, as opposed to your boo Zach Mettenberger, and his, off the field concerns. And I would say if Jake Locker has one good year, I'm going to die in 5 minutes.
I hear that. That is not good, Zach.
Actually, the St. Arnold's beer I'm drinking. I don't know. It has nothing to do with anything.
St. Sharona. See, you should be like St. Sharona and drink El Vino.
But I say Jake Locker has won like 16 games starting the year and has like 25 touchdowns, and the team ends up maybe going to the playoffs. He's going to own Nashville. That's for sure. What else? What else you got going on in Nashville except a bunch of singer-songwriters in that mediocre TV show? So he would be the guy. And imagine he has that kind of year. He's probably going to sign like a 4-year, $60 million extension or something crazy. So,
do you think it'll be with the? I guess we'll see. I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like Ken Wisenhunt is going to want to go out there and get his own quarterback, and I don't know that Jake Locker is the guy that he would have selected, and I don't know if he's the guy that he would want.
Well, I mean, the one thing about Mettenberger is he's like the Phillip Rivers type, or like the Kurt Warner, not the very traditional pocket passer. Not going to be scrambling a lot like Jake Locker, so maybe that's the guy he's looking for. But really, the guy he's looking for is probably the first-round pick next year. But if Jake Locker has a really good year, and if he can be more like Russell Wilson, who only runs when he has to and doesn't go crazy and diving into piles like RG3, then yeah, maybe they have something to work with. It's like they're going to give him a shot this year. Not like the coaching staff's going to get fired like we're in Cleveland or something. They're going to get a second year, so it's like, let's try Locker out. He sucks. All right, we're going to look at our guy in the first round next year, and they'll probably have a pretty good pick just based on recent history. I mean, they could surprise us. It's like if all works out, okay.
They'll probably take Famous Jameis.
Famous Jameis, yeah. Fans will be bringing the crab legs. Florida State, y'all. Exactly. So, before I get hit by lightning,
No, we can't have that. Hey, if we hear sirens, we're gonna have to all just hit the deck real quick.
Well, one thing that's happening is now all the cats are in here, so you're gonna get a little bonus cat action.
Kitty power. I don't know where my puppy dog went. She was over here briefly.
Dude, where this noise is, we are not fans. Just saying. Make it stop, please. But I was actually excited personally because my local fantasy football league we've been in since 2000. We've agreed to table the whole Vegas draft talk, and now we're going to actually have the draft here. And I actually have a countdown. It's 79 days until the draft.
Uh,
So, do you have that one fantasy league that you're like, I must win? You have this history. You have your rivals.
yeah, not anymore. I'm kind of sad about that. Although, maybe the NFL female. I participated in the NFL female last year. I'm sure that we'll have one this year, and I bet it will be fun. I just joined a new dynasty league. Hello Shaziers, hello Shaziers. So I'm kind of excited about that. Although I really need to kind of look at how that league is structured and everything. I had two leagues that I was a long time member of. One was a keeper league that I was in for a long, long time, and the other was a standard draft league that was all women and extremely competitive but fun. But I'm not in those leagues any longer. The keeper league was with a bunch of guys from New York, New Jersey, and it just became logistically hard for me to get up there for the draft. And I can do it by phone. I did it by phone one year, and it just wasn't as fun, and so I got out of that league. And then the other one, they made some changes to the rules, and then there were a couple of the other long termers who were not going to participate, and so I didn't like the way the league was headed, and I got out of that one too. And so I'm kind of looking for a home, a good fantasy league that I can join and stick around with and stay with. But I do play every year, so.
I think what's important to me, it's nice to have the history, but it's really the draft day, and then you can turn into this whole draft weekend, which we do, like starting Thursday night. And getting everybody there, it's really hard to do because it seems like every year we have 12 owners, and like for some reason one person can't make it, or we have like one vacancy. We have the Harry Potter reference, the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, like the one slot in our league that every year we're turning over. And I think we still have trouble picking that one person. But that there's something about the getting together. Like we used to have the draft starting at 9 a.m. where we'd all be drinking, and then we'd try to like sober up, and we'd have a big party that night with all the families. Everybody's like hungover and pretending that they're still having a good time and talking smack about their picks. We've kind of adjusted it where we start at noon draft, and then we do this party, although it's a little bit of weird mix with families coming in when everybody's kind of, to put it mildly, drunk as skunks, because we do something called the penalty shot, which a friend of mine started, which involved doing shots of alcohol we don't like. So now I try to do shots of my Belgian ale, which I do like. But it does take a toll. Plus, after the first few rounds, you're like, whatever. I have my main player, so who cares? So perhaps we need to find some Nashville folks and maybe do some kind of live draft sometime, maybe in August. Do a get together. If they do that Titans scrimmage, could have the Going for Two league. Oh man. And in honor of Going for Two, we could do a 2-quarterback league. That would be crazy. That would blow people's minds, right?
I don't like those leagues. I don't like 2 QB leagues.
Why, you a one-man, one-quarterback kind of gal?
I mean, it's just, I don't. I participated in my first auction league last year. That was kind of interesting. I didn't do too badly. Oddly enough, and there had to be some weird things about the scoring that I just was not comprehending. The league that I had, I thought, still to this day, I was like, how in the world did I suck so badly in this league? Because I had a good team. But I just really did not do very good in that league. But I did pretty good overall last year. I did really well.
Yeah, I think going mano a womano In fantasy would be good.
Yeah.
See how it works out.
No, but you're right. The best thing about being in, a good league are the drafts and the camaraderie and all the trash talk. It's kind of hard to trash talk people you don't know. I mean, like the first year or two, and both of the leagues that I was telling you about, I was, you know, kind of kind of quiet because I didn't really know anybody. Oh, I did the female league. I did. I kind of knew some people, and so it was a little bit easier to trash talk there. But in the other league, was not. I actually had to go through an interview process before I to this day remain the only female that they have ever allowed in their league.
And they not make that mistake again because you were too good.
I went to the playoffs my first year.
I don't know. I feel like it's a mixed thing from now on.
Yeah, I mean,
It
it was
depends
kind of
on
fun.
who you know, but the traditional all male like, oh,
Yeah.
why don't you do
Oh,
another stuff in league?
the first draft, there were like maybe three of the guys that talked to me. And then, so the first year I went to the playoffs, and the next year, probably about half of them really, interacted with me and really talked to me and stuff. And then by the time I got out, I had been in it so long and had done so well that, they were sad that they had accepted me, but they understood, and they were a bunch of Jersey dudes, so they didn't really care. As long as somebody was going to take over the team and pay the money, they didn't care.
Well, I dropped out of a dynasty league that I had like won 2 years in a row just because I didn't really. People were leaving. I didn't really know anybody in the league. You just kind of like this. Just you can win, but it's not really that fun. It was one of those zealots leagues, and there's no real trophy. So it's like you win, you go woohoo to yourself, and that's about it. I got an influx of new blood in my zealots league, so it's been kind of fun because we talk smack on Twitter, and we got the British dude, and he's been trying to trade for Hakeem Nicks for like 3 years, I swear, and we finally made the deal. But you have those kind of inside jokes that you get to make that are good, and I got to send. We have a guy in our league, and he's British, and he's never been that big of a fan of football. So I sent him somebody did
How
like.
did he get involved then?
Well, he knew a guy in the league, and we had an opening, so I literally like took him to a bar and explained like football to him for a while. And he's probably the number one drinker in the league.
Well, of course.
But he's been a big, obviously a big soccer fan, so I had to send him. Somebody did like an 8-bit, like classic moments in World Cup history, and one was the hand of God goal, Diego Maradona against England to beat them. And of course, that's we have a rule in our league: if you come in last, we rename your team. So him being a British guy, we had to mention Maradona and loving the French because he's British, and So I sent him that picture just as a in your face, and it's the kind of thing you're like, I'm gonna get in trouble if I do that with like a normal person, but somebody I've known for a while, it probably gets the humor. He probably won't punch me, but we'll see.
Sounds fun. I bet he is fun to hang out with and drink with.
Well, I mean, he moved to Miami, but he's like, wherever we go, he shows up. He managed to set up his life pretty well. Like, he went to school, and his wife's like working lawyer, and he's pretty much stay-at-home dad. And yeah, it's not so bad.
It's great for him. Life's good for him.
So I have a fantasy strategy and a fantasy site to talk about this week because I do a lot of interviews with people on fantasy sites, and I get to check out their content. And these guys are big-time stats people, so you just have to know that. The site is called RotoViz. It's led by a guy who has a Twitter handle of Fantasy Douche. It was a little weird explaining to my wife, and I was like, yeah, I got Fantasy Douche. She agreed to do an interview. She's like, okay, you're weird. But
I think I followed him for a while. I don't know. I must have unfollowed him or something.
He's put together a very, stats-heavy kind of abacus, holding kind of group of people who do stats. they're the ones who absolutely love Bishop Sankey. Like his numbers for them show him as like a future stud. But one of their
Okay.
writers came up with this draft theory. Are we taking pictures? Oh boy.
Yes, I did take a picture.
Extra sweaty.
Uh,
Let me wipe
I messed
myself
it up
with my
though.
12th man towel. Oh, I'm the 12th man. I'm contributing right now. But
I'm
this,
taking pictures.
you yourself, yeah.
I did. I got myself.
This is something called the zero running back theory in fantasy.
Yeah,
And
I
here's
read
the
this
idea. The
article. It's
idea
very
is basically
fascinating.
you can get good running backs in the middle and late rounds, and if you decide to wait on running back, that means you can grab wide receivers, you can grab quarterbacks, you can grab tight ends early, and then if those running backs in the middle rounds hit, and you know how often injuries happen, guys who you never heard of have great weeks, and this gives you an opportunity to have an advantage over your league mates. And just based on history, those top wide receivers are way more consistent than the top running backs. I mean, you just think about like Calvin Johnson, Demaryius Thomas, like Brandon Marshall, guys like that, as opposed to the running backs. When you get to that late first round in running backs, that's when you end up in bust territory where he's stepping on landmines, where you're drafting Steve Slayton in his second year. And by the way, Steve Slayton went like ahead of Chris Johnson in 2009 in some drafts, and it's just like, oh my gosh. But that happens every year.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful with running backs. I completely agree. But it's the same thing with quarter. I mean, it's really the same thing though with any position. There are your elite guys, and they all have tiers, and so understanding, and it's really there's so luck. It's just so much luck because you don't know who's going to get hurt. You don't know. There's so many things that can happen.
Tears as in you are crying tears.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
can be
happens
too.
by the end of the year. So I think this is what I did in my Dynasty League. I traded Matt Forte for the second rookie pick, and I got Mike Evans. And it's it's like a theory I'm coming up with Dynasty League. It's called like the immortal principle, where like you draft this guy high, and then when he's near the end of his career, you trade him for a draft pick, and then you have that guy, and then at the end of his career, you trade him, and you can actually keep, in theory, you'd keep your draft pick perpetually.
Where's Kelvin Benjamin going right now?
Well, it's weird because these guys, the RotoViz guys, didn't necessarily like him as a prospect. He's a weird prospect because he was like a redshirt sophomore, but he's kind of old, like he's 23.
Yeah.
So he's kind of started his college career late. But it's a weird situation because he's with Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's never had that jump ball guy. Basically, a tall guy, just throw it. He's not necessarily open like Anquan Bolden. So he could have a really good rookie year. He's a guy that, rookie receivers don't always do that well. There's not been very many. You really have to wait on those rookie guys. But Kelvin Benjamin actually could do really well because who else do they have? They have Jericho Cotchery. They have Tequan Underwood.
Yeah, but he caught like 10 touchdown passes last year, right?
Yeah, talk about a fluky fantasy season. I don't know if he had 10 touchdowns in his career. So, that's another thing to think about in fantasy is that situation. Like, who's going to be the Cotchery guy?
You can't predict that. You can't predict that. Who would have thought,
Well, it's fun to guess, and what else are we going to do with our free time? Hang out with our families? Nuh-uh, we're going to do fantasy.
Oh, come on.
It's important.
Hang out with our pets. You got your kitty cats. I got my puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got 1 out of 2 napping. The other one looks a little perturbed. But basically, the bottom line is this zero running back theory was created by a guy named Sean Siegel, and he basically won a high-stakes league, and he won $250,000 last year by doing this.
Wow.
It's one of those national fantasy football. They do they go to Vegas, and it's whoever gets like the highest score overall, the best team overall ends up winning that prize. And he won that, and it's like, okay, maybe this guy is, maybe I should listen to him because he's all right. So these are the kind of people I'm going to be tweeting on my draft day. Like, hey, dude, who can have my pick, please?
But see, it's so fluky, and is that fluky too? Because I won my fantasy football league last year because I was like, screw it, I'm drafting Peyton Manning in the first round, and I did, and he threw for a gazillion touchdowns.
It was literally a gazillion. I mean, the amount of points he scored was just insane. And, of course, I'm the guy who traded for him and then cut him before he got signed by Denver. That didn't go so well. I don't know. It feels like with quarterbacks you have two tiers. You have these old guys who are about to retire, like Peyton and Drew Brees and Tom Brady. And then you have all these young, up-and-coming guys, Andrew Luck, Nick Foles, Kaepernick, Russell Wilson.
How did you feel about all the Tom Brady angst on Twitter this past week over whether or not he was still a top? I was like, I would just sit back and watch it all unfold and be like, we're seriously in the off-season because look at this stuff.
Well, yeah, every day there's something on Twitter that catches whatever community you're in. We're obviously in the football/fantasy football community. So, yeah, every day something comes up that everybody just freaks out about for no apparent reason. It's just he didn't have that great of a year overall. Like, fantasy football can really, like, if you look at annual stats, it can really mess with your head. Because, like, Chris Johnson was, like, the 11th best running back last year. But week to week, he was so unpredictable. I mean, I looked at his score like in the second half last year, and it was like from weeks like 9 to the end of the year, it was like 20 points, 10 points,
yeah, but
20
that
points,
was
10 points.
That was in yardage. How many touchdowns did he score? He didn't score that many touchdowns.
He actually had 8, which was pretty high for him lately. Like, he scored a lot of touchdowns early in his career, and then later he didn't. But he actually had 8, which.
Okay.
It was kind of fluky. He had one touchdown where it was like a broken down play, and he just had all this blocking downfield. And he's still fast.
Was that all rushing touchdowns, or were there any?
6 rushing and 2 receiving.
Okay.
So yeah, 8 was the most he had, I think, since 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about him? I mean, it's like, what do you do about him for the Jets? So he's like getting that second running back. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to draft a Chris Johnson? Or are you going to draft a Bishop Stanky? You're going to take, Toby Gerhart, the Great White Hope in Jacksonville?
I like Toby Gerhart. I'm high on Toby Gerhart.
Are you? We going to make a photo album?
I am. I'm creating. You got to have some fun.
All these toys we have. We have just all these toys that are available. Yeah, I actually did. I did like a mock draft over the weekend because I think it's the Fake Football has this mock draft thing where you're able to you make your pick and then the computer auto drafts for everybody. And I don't know if I like the first pick. You like?
Oh yeah.
You like having the first pick. You like having the number 1 guy, but then it's like, oh yeah, I have to wait till like 24, and you draft 2 guys in a row, and it feels like that first pick you're grabbing the guy who dropped. And then your second pick, you're grabbing a guy early because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 25 picks.
What's your preferred? Where's your preferred spot?
I don't know. I'm in an interesting situation because we're a keeper league, but every 4 years we do redrafts. So we're doing a total from scratch redraft. And one thing I've realized about my redraft skills is I suck at drafting quarterbacks. I always let guys drop. I actually looked. And I was like, in 2001, the quarterback I drafted was Elvis Grbac. Oh, my gosh. In 2006, I took Jake Plummer. And in 2010, I took Eli Manning because by the end of the second round, 11 out of 12 teams had drafted a quarterback. Like, there's this crazy quarterback run after my pick. I picked like 8th, and I took Frank Gore. And then by the time my next pick came up, I think 10 guys had taken a quarterback. So I was like, well, I'm going to wait, and I ended up getting Eli Manning, who actually was pretty good that year. By the way, Eli Manning wasn't horrible his whole career, just lately.
He sucked last year.
But there's so much depth.
Do you think that Eli is going to rebound this year? Is he going to have a rebound year?
Well, I've heard that the Kevin Gilbride offense involved a lot of like option routes. And apparently, whoever was the third receiver, I can't remember, the LSU guy, 8 of like Eli's interceptions was on him running the wrong way. So now
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking
they have a
about.
new offensive coordinator who's from Green Bay, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not going to be doing that anymore. And I think with Cruz and Beckham and Ruben Randall, there we go, I remember him.
Yes.
It should be better, but man, Eli's getting paid like $20 million, and I swear the Giants are gonna have one more like wild card crazy run, and Eli's gonna win his third Super Bowl, and he's gonna literally get into the Hall of Fame based on like 12 games. Because for his career, he's been a good but quarterback, and I think they're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame because he's Manning.
Yeah, well, I
Peyton,
mean,
and he gets in
and
first.
if he wins another Super Bowl, he's got 3 rings. I mean,
He might get in with 2, you know.
would you say he's streaky or I mean, he's just inconsistent.
Yeah,
I remember
Giants fans, you know.
I remember the whole is Eli elite debate. You can't spell elite without Eli.
Yeah, kind of like Joe Flacco, right?
Right.
It's all about timing. I don't know. I mean, they both times they were, I think, a wild card team, and they had to win games on the road, and they won. The San Francisco game was really fluky because it was like a fumbled punt return in overtime, and then that crazy Packers game where their kicker missed like 2 field goals and then finally made one because Brett Favre is an idiot. I mean, that's how he got in, and then he made those crazy plays against the Patriots. And hey, I'm forever I forever am an Eli fan because I have a friend who's a big Patriots fan. He was so overbearing that year when the Patriots were undefeated. It was so great to watch Eli Manning, come back to beat them.
That was a pretty amazing Super Bowl anyway. I mean, it was kind of, the helmet catch and all of that. So
Yeah, literally, the guy who made that catch, David Tyree could have been like the MVP of that game if he wasn't a quarterback. And he, after that game, never played another down in the NFL.
No,
he was on injured reserve the next year, and they had to have him on the roster somehow. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the epitome of going down in a blaze of glory.
Exactly. Well, the Super Bowl, makes heroes. Like, wasn't it Timmy Smith who had a 200-yard rushing game, and I don't think he ever played after that, and I don't think anybody's topped that. Yeah, in a one-game situation, and hey, Eli's 2-0 in the Super Bowl, and Peyton's 1-2, and I think I pointed out on Twitter that he gave 2 teams their first Super Bowl win. So way to go, Peyton.
The old Peyton debate. Peyton can't win the big one.
Well, he beat Sexy Rexy in the Super Bowl, so he's got that going for him.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, yeah, it's tough. You put a lot of pressure on a guy for one game. But I don't know what it is. Just, you do in fantasy, like if a guy burns you, you will not want to draft him again. So I was thinking about guys who screwed me last year. Should I draft him this year? Because usually the guys who suck for you one year are great the next year. Like, I had Ryan Matthews a couple years ago. He was horrible, and then last year he was good. Trent Richardson was a disaster for me last year, and maybe he'll come around. Because it's about opportunity. I mean, the Colts are going to get the ball, even though he doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. And, guys like Cecil Shorts who got hurt, and, I'd say screwed me over, but really, give me a break. This is fantasy football, right? This is the name
I drafted Jermichael Finley last year against all my better judgment because I had him before and had been burnt so badly. Buying into the hype and whatever, until he got hurt, he was pretty good.
Tight end. Wait, you didn't draft Delaney Walker?
I did draft Delaney Walker. I was in like six or 7 leagues last year. I can't remember.
That's it?
That was it.
Well, now that you're a radio personality, you're probably going to be a lot more leagues. I mean,
my Sharona.
Big time. Yeah, I only did the 2 leagues last year, and I feel like I want to do at least that third and either do some kind of local draft in Atlanta where I can find people, or go up to Nashville and do the, going for 2, maybe get some of those MCM people who aren't too bitter. to show up at the draft and take Bishop Sankey in the first round, and you'll take Peyton in the first round and probably win.
You never know. I have had the internal debate over what I repeat, what I take Peyton in the first round this year because of what you just said. You know, the converse is true. Guys who are awesome for you one year kind of tend to suck for you the next year. I don't always. In fact, honestly, I sort of. Well, I won't say that. I've drafted Aaron Rodgers in consecutive years. And boy, did he screw me last year. Oh,
yeah, I
my
mean,
God.
when one guy gets hurt, especially at quarterback, like last year, I was the one guy in my league to not keep a quarterback, and I was like, I'm going to play the late round quarterback game. I'm going to grab 3 guys, and one of them is going to be good. And I took Mike Vick, and I felt like a genius for 2 weeks as he was great. And then he got hurt, and I was screwed. And only because I made some crazy deal with a fellow owner, we made a mutual destruction pact, and one of us was going to trade players to the other to see if we could win a championship. It didn't work out, but I ended up getting Cam Newton, who, strangely, Cam Newton wasn't that good last year, and mainly that was because the Panthers' defense was good. Almost part of the thing is, like, you want a quarterback, but maybe on a team with not such a great defense because they only need to score like 17.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like last year with the Chicago Bears, it was the perfect storm. If you had Josh McCown and Jay Cutler, the Bears' defense was so terrible they had to score points every week, and that's important.
And even Tony Romo. That's why Tony Romo statistically was a good fantasy option.
Yeah, I mean Sean Lee got hurt. It's like, oh, now the Dallas, the one player they had is hurt. So yeah, they're gonna throw the ball a lot. So Tony Romo, and he's another one of those guys. I mean, they're guys between 10 and 15 that you'd be happy with, like Colin Kaepernick's in that range. Even Tom Brady, I've seen. I think in that mock I took Cam Newton like in the 7th round because it was just like, with Cam Newton, like he never gets hurt. He always runs for like 6 to 8 touchdowns. And even those receivers might stink. He's never had good receivers. He didn't have good receivers in college. He's talented. I don't know how to say that. He's a Missouri guy. I'm not afraid.
Yep. So, who is your kind of sleeper pick this year?
Well, I can't give that away.
Oh, come on.
Well, I was looking at running backs, and yeah, they're kitty cat. I was looking at running backs, and it's all about those guys who catch a lot of passes. Pierre Thomas caught 77 passes last year, and guess who's not in New Orleans anymore? Darren Sproles is gone, and every single year they say Mark Ingram's going to come through. Mark Ingram's like the running back version of Jared Cook. Like, we can't quit him.
Right.
And so yeah, Pierre Thomas always comes in and gets 150 carries, and he got 70 catches last year.
It's Kerry Robinson this year, right? He's kind of the...
It could be. I mean, the Saints, it's such an odd thing because they traded a first-round pick to get Mark Ingram, yet every year they get an undrafted free agent running back who does really well. Their scouts just know what they're doing, so it's like, yeah, grab that guy and go to the races. But it really is, except for like Jimmy Graham for the Saints, you just don't know what you're going to get week to week with those guys.
See, the league that I sucked in last year was a league where I had Drew Brees and like Marcus Colston and Darren Stroud. I had like the Saints offense, but as potent as the Saints offense was, you couldn't count on Colston because he disappeared when I had him, and then I finally decided, screw this, I'm moving on. He decides that he's gonna show up and be good.
Yeah, the Saints have a weird history of getting guys late. Like, they got Colston and he was like the 3rd from the last pick, and they drafted a guy like Tennessee, Robert Meacham, and he never really did very much as a player. Another guy, I really do like Joey Bell. I got him off waivers in my Dynasty League, and I've been so happy. Like, if Reggie Bush doesn't get hurt, he's their third down back. He's going to get 60 catches and like 150 touches. And if Reggie Bush gets hurt, I traded him for him one week, and that was the week Reggie Bush got hurt. He had like 24 points just because they're giving him a ton of touches, and he's not the usual like scat back fast guy. He's kind of a chunky dude. I remember that Titans game that went to overtime with the Lions. He had like 12 catches in that game. So you like I'm leaning toward these receiving running backs like Shane Vereen, even though he got hurt last year. It seemed like every week they threw the ball to him like 10 times a week.
Well, but that's because
get those catches. They're
Tom Brady didn't have anybody else. He had his young guys were kind of dropping the ball, and Gronk wasn't there, and then he was, and then he wasn't, and we all know about Aaron Hernandez. He was out killing people, and I forgot he was in jail by then. He didn't have anybody.
Yeah, Gronkowski got hurt, and as we know, Bill Belichick talks to Jeff Fisher for advice on how to draft wide receivers, and we see the results of that.
Well, they took Aaron Dobson in like the second round.
Yeah, Dobson, that's tough. Like chasing wide receivers is a bad thing. It's like dating a drummer; it never goes well. You get the guy who has that fluky 1 week great performance, and the next week he has nothing. I picked up Nate Burleson, and I remember watching the Thanksgiving game, and I swear Matthew Stafford threw the ball to like 12 guys. Nate Burleson, nary a target, nary a touch. I got 0 from him. I cut him, and the next week he probably had 7 catches. It's just the way it goes with wide receivers. Fewer opportunities. It's just really, there's a lot of variance, which gives more fuel to that. Grab your guys, early, the guys are going to get a ton of targets. But hey, it's just a theory. It's just an idea. Any fantasy strategy, really, it's have your strategy, but if a guy drops, don't pass on a guy just because you're like, oh, I can't take a running back to the 5th round. But if the guy's your number 5 running backs there at the beginning of the 3rd round, take him.
Ultimately, you've got to go with your gut. It is your fantasy team. You take the guys you want to take, because regret is the worst emotion. And, if you've got a guide in one hand saying do this, but you want to do something else, you listen to the guide. That's not your team. That's the guide's team. It's supposed to, we're all competitive. We want to win, but it's supposed to be fun.
I go with my gut, but that's usually the beer talking.
Well, hey, you know what? Beer goggles.
It's all about having fun. This is supposed to be a hobby, right? Some people make a living off it.
Right. We're not all going to go out and win $250,000.
Yeah, exactly. Every year they have like I think it's the Fantasy Football National Championship, and it's like $350 to join, and you get like the invite for like the half the price, but it's still like, I don't know. I've never done well playing fantasy football for money, so I usually just play it for love or for a trophy that I haven't won since 2002. Not so good.
Well, Zach, here is to Sharona repeating as champion of the NFL Female Fantasy Football League, and here's to you getting that trophy.
Now, are boys not allowed in that league? I did hear a rumor that NFL Female wants to do a super podcast with us. That'd be fun.
No boys allowed.
Well, we are stupid, so I understand.
We might get cooties. No cooties allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get cooties in your wine. That totally ruins the flavor. Well, my gosh, it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Look what happened. So, Sharona, tell us what's happening with you. You got so much going on. You're curating, you're trending on Twitter. Talk to us.
I trend on Twitter all the time. Search my name. You'll find all kinds of awesome stuff. Well, tomorrow we're going to be talking NBA on the radio show. I'm getting ready to go. No, right. I'm getting ready to go watch the NBA Finals. Game 1. Go Spurs, go. Hi, Boo. Hi, Timmy. See right there?
You have boos in every county, don't you?
Boo in every county.
As long as they don't know.
You got to keep them separated.
Yeah, it's a compartmentalized way to go. Did an interview with John Moore, the CFX, who is on, shockingly, RotoViz. He did a little article today about Nick Foles, comparing him to Andrew Luck, and apparently has something big coming up. The guys who post 27 articles a week, I tip my hat to you, even though I'm not wearing one. You're awesome. Got a couple interviews coming up, although I have to, send questions and stuff to get them going, but hopefully I can keep it going, because we know there is no off season. It doesn't end. We keep going. Even when this OTA crap is over, we're going to find stuff to talk about. We're going to keep going. We're going to get to a position next week that should be of a little bit of fantasy interest, the Titans
Tight end?
receiver position.
Hi, Delaney.
And then we'll get to tight ends. Hey, we can talk about tight ends whenevs, if that's what you want. That's what the people want. So, like I say, thank you, Zach _Law on the Twitters, and Sharona Sports by Sharona.
Sports by Sharona. I'm also actually writing, I'm in the process of writing an article, my weekly article for NGN. A little bit behind on that. I'm hoping to get it posted tonight. Going to work on it a little bit while the game's on, but if not, it will definitely get posted tomorrow on a topic that's dear to my heart. Stay tuned to that.
And I hope you can get in touch with the Jags guy.
Yeah. All right.
So
well, thanks for joining us.
It's been fun. Have a good week. Go Titans or go NFL.
Good night. Go Spurs, go.